Welcome to the Ralph Bivins Project. I'm Ralph Bivins. We're here today when there's a lot of uncertainty in the world and in the economy and in our markets for real estate. Um, Oil's over $110 a barrel, and gas is over $4 a gallon, and inflation is going crazy. And some people are even talking about a recession looks likely. And we just all this uncertainty. So, and we're turning to an old friend, Carlos Bujosa. He's vice president of Transwestern. He's been selling real estate in this part of Texas for quite a few decades, and he knows his way around the block. And he was at one time he was chairman of HAR, the Houston Association of Realtors, and he really specializes in commercial, and he's able to sniff out submarkets and neighborhoods and find pieces of property that investors want to buy. And so we're glad to have you here, Carlos. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Ralph, and I honored to be on your program. As you mentioned, you and I've been in the business for many decades, starting out in the early 1980s, around the same time that you did. And so I remember the name Ralph Bivins from the Houston Chronicle, the real estate reporter. And it was always quite an honor if you got honorable mention in the Houston Chronicle, thanks to Ralph.
Well, and hopefully you're a little bit scared when you picked up the phone too. That's a joke. That's a joke.
No, it's true. But I was.
Yeah. Hey, well, given all these things, I just I know that among the many things on your resume was you won the forecast, the outlook forecast for land, what's going to happen in the land market with the CCIM group, which does their annual forecast, and you won that one year. So, but what do you think? Here we are, we're getting closer to, we're probably in summer, the way it feels, but we're halfway through 2022. Where do you think we're going? Where are things going from here?
Well, I think, we ought to kind of talk about where we've been, because where we've been is probably one of the hottest real estate markets that you and I have ever experienced. Everything seemed to be working the last several years. Everything was selling, and that's primarily what I'm involved in, is on the brokerage side, on sales. And we had, as usual, deals would fall out of contract, but almost immediately would come back under contract. Our batting average as far as deals that got closed were probably 80+%, 90%, which is, that's really good.
Good batting.
There have been times where it's been really dismal, but these have been really good times. Our most recent problem really was just the fact that we were starting to run out of inventory, out of properties to sell, because things were selling so quickly. And so we were selling land and buildings, and you name the market, it was pretty much active. The only thing that we all know has been difficult has been the office market, and that's going to probably continue to stay that way. So that's where we've been. And then just a few months ago, really not very long ago at all, maybe since the first of the year, we started to see some indications that maybe things were changing. And that's, obviously we've been around long enough to know that good times don't always last. And we're just always wondering, when's it going to be? When's it going to be? And so now we've got some headwinds. There's the inflation, rising interest rates, uncertainty in the supply chain, which is causing major problems for the home builders and for anybody that's doing any type of construction. And that in itself, that combination of rising interest rates, supply chain issues, is going to probably cause some pain in the lower end of the single family housing market. We sell land to single family developers, large tracts of land, and we know just from some discussions that they're having some problems, some hesitation from homeowners, home buyers, that they weren't having before. So, I mean, you look at the economy and you see really great things going on, 3.6% unemployment. I heard something recently where there are 2 job openings for every person looking for a job, 6% wage growth, and all that type of stuff. You know, it all sounds great, but there's, you know, kind of 2 things going on. There's the great things going on, and these other things that are kind of pulling us back. And so we just have to see where all that takes us.
Well, I know you've been very active in land, and I know that's been a super hot market as home builders and land developers have been out, and some outlying part of Houston and the Houston area and surrounding counties where this had been a very, very hot market. And adding to that, of course, is the fact that, you know, in a lot of ways, you don't have to go to the office every day. There's a lot of people working from home, or they're going to be working 3 days a week and maybe 2 days from home. And when they are confronted with that, they think, you know, well, maybe I wouldn't mind driving that far if I only had to drive that 3 days a week. You know, I work from home too, so the commuting pressure would be lessened for them. And so the people, I know land was in super high demand, but I think your sense is that some of the builders and land developers may be backing off a little bit with this right now. Is that how you feel?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's actually happening, but my guess is that, you know, they're all trying to figure out what will be happening in the future. And so I think they're probably being cautious and maybe rethinking any moves that last year might have been really, you know, decisions that might have been very easy to make. They're just being really, really careful. But
it's really hard, you know, for the home buyer with inflation, with mortgage rates going to the first of the year, they were, you know, in the 3s, and now they're in the 5s.
Yeah.
That means for some people, younger families, starter homes, that takes them out of being able to buy. You know, they're priced out.
Yeah, I saw something yesterday. It was or a few days ago, it was a webinar by Zonda that does a lot of single family residential research, and for the home builders, that since the beginning of the year, with what you were saying, interest rates being in the low 3s, interest rates today being over 5, and add on to that the inflation of the housing product, that in the Houston area, a person's monthly payments have, in that short period of time, increased about 30%. And so that's pretty substantial, and it might not affect some of the people buying the more expensive homes, but certainly in the entry level, you got to think it's going to. And then, you know, people switching to maybe ARMs, to adjustable rate mortgages and things like that, which we hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah, I know. The mortgage bankers said that the adjustable rate mortgage applications had gone up like a third. They're way up right now. People,
yeah,
for solutions. How can I buy this house I really want?
Right,
So
right,
they're going to the arms rather than a 30-year fix or something.
right, right.
Carlos, you're also, you've got a lot of expertise and a track record in what people call infill, kind of close in, close to downtown, at least inside Loop 610, things of that nature. And I know you have some big listings in that area. Just tell me what we're talking about the density of the metro area and what's going on with infill properties.
Well, I mean, I think it's continuing. Uh, People want to live close into town. They want to live close to where they work, and I think that there are some areas that are maybe experiencing a little bit more growth right now. Downtown, unfortunately, I think is maybe been hit pretty hard because of the office market and the fact that so many of those buildings were pretty shut down and their actual physical occupancies were so low. I think that's changing, but it's really affected a lot of the retail, a lot of the restaurants that relied upon those office workers being there, and so I think that that's beginning to come back. But then there are other areas like the Heights. We've got some property in the Heights, and I mean it's probably one of the most active properties that we've got. It's just a land site on North Shepherd, and it's amazing how much activity we get on it. We've had, unfortunately, a couple of contracts that have fallen out, but I know we'll get it back under contract, and that, frankly, has something to do. These contracts falling out really have something to do with what's going on. I mean, one of them fell out because of rising construction costs, and the other one fell out because of some problem on another property. It's just something that you might not have experienced a year ago. But yeah,
I heard that stat the other day of between now and before the pandemic, the price of copper wire that for construction is up 585%.
wow.
Unbelievable stuff like that. And
Yeah.
of course, everybody knows lumber's up, big time too. But some of those products, aluminum, copper wire, steel plate, or whatever it is, a lot of those have taken big jumps.
Well, speaking of lumber, I was talking to a home builder a couple of days ago that I know and have done some business with, and he was telling me that the cost of lumber for one home today, 2 years ago, you could have done 4 homes. So it just shows you it's gone up 4 times, and so all of these things are playing into whatever's going to happen. The sort of supply chain that's really becoming a problem for a lot of people and slowing down a lot of projects, making people rethink things because when their pricing comes in, it's substantially higher and they're having a hard time making their numbers work.
Tough for builders, and when they also they borrow money to build a house and things, and if it ends up, hey, we're going to have like an extra 90 days waiting for garage doors or appliances. Appliances are hard. Those type of things, and the delay to getting the house sold, and getting away from it and being at cost in terms of the interest carry into the turn, and that's a big deal. But hey, you're right. I drove up North Shepherd recently and was just kind of amazed around that new HEB, just the density that it just didn't even feel like Houston. It's like all these restaurants and clubs and places. What the HEB, all that had that very, very, very urban and walkable feel in the Heights area, and it was pretty amazing. I was amazed by that.
Yeah, you're starting to see a lot of people starting to focus also on areas north of the Loop, the Garden Oaks area, Spring Branch, a lot of those areas that we always knew were, going to get attention, but they're finally starting to get attention. Land prices have risen pretty substantially, and so have home prices.
Yeah, but that's yeah, a lot of the stuff that had been kind of like warehousey and uh, you know
Yeah.
light industrial and things like that. 18th West 18th Street and,
Hmm.
and all that, and north of Old Katy Road, all that in there is really has some momentum right now, from what I can tell. They, uh, we talked the other day, and we've lived here long enough that areas like that, West University Place, Bel Air, the Heights, other places where we see, well, this house was built in 1955, and um, it's not. There's a lot of demand for it right now, so we're going to tear it down and we're going to build a new, bigger, 5,000, 6,000 square foot home that's going to sell for $1.5 million or something. Um, Tear downs is what I call them. Some people do that. But when we're talking about infill commercial, you mentioned that you had a project, a listing for an office building, kind of in the Galleria area that you were going to, that's it may be a tear down. Can you tell us about that? That's tearing down houses is one thing for new construction, but tearing down office buildings how's that going to work out?
Well, I mean, the fact that we have quite a large supply of vacant office and this trend that's a flight to quality, a lot of people wanting to have the biggest, best gym and all these amenities in their office buildings. Um, it's really hard for the older buildings to be able to compete. I mean, they can compete, but does it really, economically, does it make any sense? And it probably doesn't, because the kind of rents that they can generate versus those newer buildings that are energy efficient and have all these different amenities. So in this particular case, this is a building at 5850 San Felipe at Augusta, across from the Post Oak Y and across from Harold Farb's San Felipe Plaza. And, you drive by there and you just think, well, that's just a nice office building. And you would never think that anyone would consider tearing that building down. Well, that's essentially, we're marketing that building as a 2.1 acre site. It does have a 100,000 square foot building, 5 floors, but really the highest and best use of that property today is to tear it down, because it's worth more as a land tract than it is if you value the income stream of the office building. So it's kind of interesting, and we'll probably see more of those, either tearing buildings down or maybe retrofitting buildings into other types of uses. We're seeing it in other cities where they're retrofitting buildings to do, say, multifamily, maybe healthcare, something like that.
Well, there on San Felipe, on San Felipe, where this listing is, I think Tanglewood as a proposed high-rise residential, and
Yeah.
I know that there's one. And I guess Dinnerstein just built one there on a hard corner.
Yeah, and Pelican, Robert Bland,
Robert
one at the corner of Chimney Rock and San Felipe, and then Tanglewood Corporation's doing the one that's right at Tanglewood Boulevard and San Felipe, and those are both for sale products. I think the Dinnerstein building, I believe, is for lease.
Rental, yeah,
Yeah.
lease.
Yeah.
So boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I mean, your drive to the Galleria is, which has a lot of employers and office spaces, unreal. So, and I guess it's not that horrible to get out to West Chase or something if you worked out
Right.
there. It would be easy. So, seems like it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And we probably will see more of that because we're here with. I don't know, but I believe we have over 50 million square feet of vacant office, and we're not chewing it up very fast. So you would think that's the wave of the future is either coming up with different uses or like let's tear them down and build something that's the FAR building there is 50 stories, 40 stories or something.
Yeah.
Pretty dense, pretty tall. In a place like that. Let me think. We talked a little bit earlier about what we could. I guess the southeast side. Some things are happening around Ellington Field. They're building the spaceport and those kind of things there. And then we have Clear Lake and all that. So what? I know you're pretty familiar with that area. What could you say about that southeast Clear Lake City, Ellington / Kima, all that area in there?
I think from a residential standpoint, there have been a lot of, for example, Johnson Corporation bought several large tracts of land down in that area, and on Highway 96, which is a little bit farther south from there. And so there's been a tremendous amount of residential, basically a boom. It's sort of an extension of South Shore Harbor, of all that development on the south side of Clear Lake. And then on Highway 146, north of Seabrook, there's a big highway expansion going on right now that's supposed to be part of the Grand Parkway hurricane evacuation route, but there's just a tremendous amount of truck traffic on Highway 146, all going to the ship channel, either by Highway 225 or 146 I mean, it's amazing, just the number of 18-wheelers and also the number of distribution centers that are going on up there. A lot of big developers are taking positions down there, and there's quite a bit of construction.
Building warehouses and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it had seemed kind of sleepy in the southeast area in recent years, but I just kind of had the feeling that things are picking up.
Yeah, that Bayport terminal, which was built, I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago, something like that, really wasn't getting that much traffic until recently, and now it is really, really busy. So, that's good for Houston. Lots of goods coming in and out.
Oh yeah, they can handle a hell of a lot of those containers, and there's tons of that now. All the home shopping and the cooking, those kind of things. So order your stuff online. So I think that's a huge change deal too. What about the energy corridor, man? A lot of energy companies have taken on the chin, but they probably doing better now. They're doing better now. So oil's $100 a barrel. But what's your take on the energy corridor?
I don't know. I think it's too early to tell, but I think that the energy companies maybe are not. I think they're probably being a little bit more cautious in hiring people. I mean, they see the prices where they are. Obviously, they need more. They need to staff up, but I think they're being very cautious as to how much they staff up, and that's where a lot of those buildings. I mean, that's where the tenants were coming from, was from engineering and other exploration companies, and so because you get, unfortunately, we've got high oil prices, but you get kind of mixed messages from Washington as to the future of oil and gas. And so, it's hard to blame some of these companies for being a little cautious.
Right. You want to know what the landscape is. Uncertainty is not your friend when you're getting ready to sink $1 billion into,
Exactly.
filling some wells.
But I know that we're seeing some hiring for sure. It's probably pretty good to be a petroleum engineer in Houston again. A young petroleum engineer. So I'm sure they're making money.
What about the land out there, the real estate in the energy corridor? Is that going to be flat for a while, or is there any movement?
I think it's been relatively stable. You hadn't seen any huge increases like you have in for example, in the inner loop, where you've seen pretty big increases. As you get farther out the Katy Freeway, you've seen quite a bit of development out there, distribution centers. That kind of became the real hot spot for Amazon and a bunch of other people that set up distribution centers out there. Those prices have gone up pretty substantially. I mean, you drive out there and you go out to Brookshire, and there's basically development out there. So that kind of takes me to what you and I were talking about before, which was US 290. That's kind of the next logical step. I-10, there's the sites over there, a lot of the good sites have been eaten up. Prices have gotten pretty high. So a lot of developers have chosen to move up to 290. And you mentioned David Wolf. He had the foresight to go out there and, 6 years ago, buy a relatively large tract of land out in the middle of nowhere, near Prairie View, and with nothing around it. And now he's got, as I think you mentioned, that Hines has purchased about 70 something acres from him to do a distribution center, and there are a lot of other developers that are starting to take positions out there. We've got a couple of properties out there for sale, and we've sold a couple in the last couple of years out near Prairie View, which you would think, wow, I mean, if you drive out there today, as a matter of fact, a young guy that works for us that's been doing some research on that area had been doing it all on Google Earth and everything, and he drives out there and he goes, God, there's nothing out there. I thought all these sales had occurred and everything, and there's not. Yeah, but just wait a year or two, and it's going to be a totally different place.
Amazing.
And prices are going up. They're going up.
I would bet. I think, Wolf, he's has a real history. Some people being able to spot these markets and build them up, and of course, he gets credited as being the guy that coined the name, the Energy Corridor, which that's a pretty good name. I mean, there are people all over the world. You talk to somebody in Saudi and say, you want to buy a building in the Energy Corridor, they know what you're talking about. But that was a great piece of marketing prowess with that thing. But yeah, 290 course, it's the northwest, ends up, kind of going towards College Station and all that. But and I think close to the Beltway 8 for a while there was huge, long construction deal, and it's finally completed or nearing completion, and so that opens that up for more development. So we feel pretty good about that. Also, okay, so let's go around to the northeast. We're talking about the northwest area of Houston. Let's talk about the northeast now, about, kind of like Kingwood, Lake Houston, all that in there. You've got McCord doing some stuff up there, a big project with a long-term horizon. Talk to me about the northeast, Carlos.
Well, you're right. I mean, McCord has done a fabulous job with their project up there. They've been able to attract some very significant corporations to locate there. It hadn't quite gotten the momentum that some of these other areas have. I think it will. But the proximity to the airport to Intercontinental is certainly a real big advantage, and the proximity to some of the residential up there, to Kingwood, Atascocita, areas like that where you have some really nice residential. Kingwood unfortunately has had some issues with flooding, and I think that kind of put a little bit of a damper on development over there for a little while, but there's still a lot of stuff going on over there. People are just being a little bit more careful about where they build.
Well, and I guess coming around the horn, what about due south? The 288 corridor and all that. Tell me what you think about directly south of Houston, which of course has great access to the medical center.
Yeah, Pearland, areas like that, I mean, are just doing really, really well. There's a lot of commercial development taking place, medical related facilities over in I think they call it South Kirby, Lower Kirby is
Lower
Kirby. And as a matter of fact, we just sold several parcels of land down there last year to a Chinese company that we're going to do a facility down there, and so they're getting a lot of attention, a lot of residential down there. If you go to 518, their main street at the South Freeway 288, I mean, there's every major national retailer is there. It's unbelievable. It has really changed, and that growth is continuing to go south toward Alvin and other areas like that, because like you mentioned, getting to the medical center is pretty quick. And so you do have a lot of employees, a lot of nurses and doctors that live in the medical center that have chosen Pearland because of the commute.
And they built a new toll road in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So that does make a quick commute, and that's people still want that. That's an easy sell. Get caught in some of these bad traffic jams, which can be tough. Right there now, all the construction around 610 and 59. That's some rough stuff sometimes. Building an extra 30 minutes, you may need it. Well, that's. But overall, I mean, just a little bit about outside your area, kind of, but not really. You were head of HAR, so you know a thing or two, but just we mentioned this earlier with the interest rates. What do you think about single family? Wow, that's that market. Even though you're mostly commercial guys, yeah, I think that single family drives a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it does.
What do you think is going to happen with the Houston single family market?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I hope that it will continue to thrive. I'm just, I'm concerned really about the lower end because they're going to be the most interest rate sensitive. Uh, Prices have been rising so rapidly. Uh, just the median house of a home in the greater Houston area is just gone through the roof. And so a lot of that is due to demand, supply chain issues, now interest rates. And so it probably will take a little bit of an adjustment. Uh, could be maybe a little price adjustment. We just don't know. But certainly, I think things will be slowing down a little bit for sure.
It seems like they've got to slow down. So
Yeah.
it's unbelievable sales. That we're selling more houses than ever.
Yeah. But we still have a lot of people moving to Houston. We've got a lot of people moving to Houston. We've got job growth. All those things will, it'll work its way out. It's just a matter of, and it always has, as we know. But it's just a matter of how it does it. Maybe some of those lower end buyers are going to have to put off buying a new home and maybe move into an apartment.
Yeah.
And because owning a home has been really cheap. I mean, when interest rates are, close to zero, it makes things pretty easy.
Yeah.
And we knew that wasn't going to last forever.
Yeah, I know. Missing out is hard when you go, oh man, why didn't I pull the trigger on buying that house a year ago?
Yeah, it's interesting times, Ralph, and that reminds me of the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times.
We're there.
But you and I have lived through many interesting times, and here we are. We're still here, and
survive and thrive.
Yeah.
And we will, no matter how bad it gets, we're going to find a way to make it and be happy.
Yeah.
Carlos Bujosa of Transwestern, thanks so much for talking with me today and sharing your expertise. And we'll have to come back and check things out again sometime and do a little follow-up to see how all the things we talked about actually occur. So we're waiting for that. But thank you very much. And,
thank you, Ralph. Enjoyed being with you. We'll talk soon.
Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.